Hello everyone, Mary Rose here at Stitch Bliss Corner, and today is Sunday, September the 22nd, 2019, and I'm just going to give you an update. I'm going to show Harlequin, but he's not finished yet. It's just because of a comment that Ray made and about pollocky backs of cross-stitching, and for those who are uninitiated, Jackson Pollock was an artist that produced works like this. This is called Convergence, 1952. And as you can see, the back of it does look like some people's backs of cross-stitching. So I'm just going to show you Mardi Gras or Harlequin. I'm just going to show you the back so you can see my pollocky back. And then I'm going to mention a Flosstube, some comments from the wonderful people that comment on my videos. They're always very interesting, and I do pride myself on answering every single comment that I get. I think if you've been good enough to send me a comment, it's only fair and fitting that I should send one back, which I do like to do anyway. So I know some Flosstube channels have so many subscribers and so many views and commenters, it's not possible to answer all of them individually. But I'm in the happy position where I can do that, because I have a little group of people that watch me that's fairly concise. I think I keep my numbers are a lot lower, so I don't have to worry about it must be quite difficult and when you've got a really popular channel and people say such lovely things that you'd love to sit down and answer, but you literally don't have the time. I think some Flosstubers need a PA to do all their mail and everything for them. So, anyway, whatever. I'm already waffling and I've only just got started. And what else? So a bit of haul. I've got some FFOs because Bendy Stitchy was saying about a weekend for FFOing. And I've cast about and thought, well, what have I got that I could finish? Excuse me. And I've found a couple of things, so I thought, well, that's okay, I can do those. And just a few comments here and there as I go along. So that's pretty much it. So I'll start out by congratulating Kerry, that's Kitty Stitcher, in the UK. She has just finished her chatelaine. And it's just lovely. It's so beautifully stitched, and a triumph for Kerry, because the fabric that she chose fought her all the way. Basically, she chose black fabric, and it just wasn't the easiest of textures to work with, but she pressed on and kept going, which is marvelous, because, as you know, well, as people who watch me regularly, I do mention Kerry, and she's got a chronic illness, and she gets very fatigued, and her joints get very tired and everything. So for her to have done the special stitches and all the specialty stitches and just everything else, to keep going, to have the mental will to keep going with something, because the chatelaine is a pretty challenging experience. I mean, Jani's just shown all of her whips. I suggest you go and have a look at them. They're amazing. You're just gobsmacked by all the beautiful work that she does. And she's got some chatelaines, and you can see all the work in them. I mean, a couple of them were just mouth-watering. And I thought, no, I cannot go down the chatelaine route. I just can't. I've got too many other things lined up. So, but they are enchanting, and and Kerry's is up there, that's for sure. It's beautiful. So congratulations, Kerry, and anyone who wants to see it, well, it's on her latest video. So yeah. Now, what else was I going to say? Oh, I cross stitch told me about the October issue, Flosstube vocabulary. That's the trouble. It seems to limit my vocabulary down. Anyway, she was talking about the latest magazine, the October version of the World of Cross Stitching, and there's a Henry VIII in it apparently. So I'll have to see if I can see. I did look at the cover, but he's not on the cover. But it did remind me of the one that I've already stitched, the Henry that I've already stitched, which I did show very early on, quite some time ago, in one of my Flosstubes. So just in case you've missed him, I'm going to show him again. And one of the commenters at the time said that he looked like Blingy Henry, because I did go to town a bit on the Krynic, shiny stitches, shiny threads. Yeah, anyway. And Judy, well, I've got you here, Judy. I'm glad you've strapped on your walking shoes. I like to think it's a case of taking your heart for a walk, because I have been doing a lot of walking lately, and the weather's been glorious, so that's been very good. Excuse me. And yes, very enjoyable to get out there and do a bit of walking, because when you're older, they say 10,000 steps a day. Well, you don't really need to do 10,000. I think when you're older, you can do less of them, and it still is good for you. In fact, I think 10,000 when you're older is, it's a bit like wearing the engine out just a little bit, because, in your joints and everything, well, they're probably not made to do that many steps. But I suppose it depends on your general health and how good your joints are and everything else. Right, so let's get on anyway, because I'm boring myself. Right, we'll just start with Henry then, seeing as I've got him right here. Now, he was in the New Stitches issue 6, and this is him here. So, this is in the, when would this have been? Oh, I don't know, late 1980s, 1990, I can't remember now. But New Stitches was a marvellous magazine. So that's the picture anyway. And here's what I came up with. Now, there he is. Now, you probably can't see the shininess because, it doesn't really come across. But he's got a lot of sparkle on him. His little shoes. And I did 2/2 for the the clothes and everything, but the face I did 1/1. And I probably do that face a bit different. Now I tried, I've sort of, how sometimes when you're doing 1/1 on a small count fabric, because this is, oh gosh, this is really small. I think it's less than 28 count actually. Pretty small thread count there. You can get pixelating a lot, little squares a little bit. So I sort of blended it a bit so that it wasn't little squares of colour, just to, make it more gradual in the features, the shading and everything. So, oh, there's my light coming in. Anyway, so that's Henry. And if you're wondering what this is underneath here, that's actually Henry's signature that I couched on there. I traced it and couched it. And that's the H there. H, Hen, there's the N, R-Y. And here's his, the second part, which is Rex basically. But he had a very characteristic signature. which he must have dashed off a lot, seeing as he was king. He must have been signing a lot of things and probably didn't have time to do it too neatly, especially when he had just a quill or whatever it was. So right, so that was that one I was going to show you. Now I was also going to mention about Hardanger, because Michelle Bendy Stitchy, she was talking about she's thinking of doing a piece using Hardanger, which is 22 count. Sometimes people call Hardanger 22 count Ada, but actually it's Hardanger. And Hardanger is a different kind of fabric altogether to Ada. And as I say, anyone who's regularly watched me knows, I've mentioned this a few times, that Hardanger, that's Hardanger there. And although it looks at first glance like Ada, Ada is not constructed the same way. And you can see there that you can split those stitches up so that you can get them into four petit point if you want to, which makes them very good for mirabilias. But for full coverage, which is what I wanted to say to Michelle if she's watching, I did try full coverage with Hardanger, and it's pretty stiff. You know, it gets pretty thick. It's like the 20 count Ada that I'm using for my Harlequin. It's pretty thick with 2/1. And I think the Hardanger was even tighter. So I'll just show you what I mean. This was the original Harlequin that I was doing, and this was on the 22 count Ada. I don't know if you can see that, but it is quite thick. It's, yeah. So I think if you're doing a mirror and it's not the whole full coverage, I think it's fine, because then you can do your little stitches for your skin if you want to, and the bigger stitches for the gown, which is fine. But for full coverage, I think it gets a bit tight in there. That's all I'm saying. So that was the original Harlequin I was doing on the 22 count. And then we decided to have another look, because you can see the colours. I'll show you the colour of the other one in a minute. They're slightly more rusty looking, and I quite like those colours. You know, I might finish this off sometime one day if ever I get the chance, if I live to be, 102. But see, I'll just show you the different colour here. This is the other Harlequin. Now, this is Cézanne's Mardi Gras, actually, but I just call it Harlequin. Now, we are getting down towards the bottom now. I've only got to do the rest of the legs and the feet. So next time you see him, he really will be finished. But this is very, very stiff, this fabric. It's sort of too long now to stand up, but it could almost stand up on its own. But it's lovely, it's very nice. It's fascinating what Ada will put up with. You can really put so much into it and it still holds together so well. So that's Harlequin. And I'll just show you the Pollocky back. There's the Pollocky back. Okay, so that's that one done. Now then, last time I spoke to you, I did show you a picture of Andre Agassi, because I was showing you the T-shirt that I made inspired by him, and I left out the reason why he, that particular top was inspired by him. It was because the top half, because I talked about his shorts. Look, I'll have to start again. I showed a picture last time of Andre Agassi at Wimbledon because he was wearing white, and everybody wanted to know how he would look different because he was very charismatic and a stylish sort of fellow. When he got on the court, he always wore something a bit different. But because Wimbledon, you can only wear white, or predominantly white now, everybody was wondering how he would distinguish himself from everybody else. And of course he came out with a pair of white sort of tight bike shorts and a baggier pair over the top with the white shorts, bike shorts sticking down a little bit just above his knee. But his top, his T-shirt in the front seam was slightly shorter than the back seam. And I'll show you what I mean, because I did make about 3 or 4 of these T-shirts, and the one I showed you was one that I didn't do it on. So, but it was too late. I was already rolling the tape, basically. So anyway, so I'll just show you what I did see here, because I was saying the back was longer than the front. Well, it was, but not on that particular T-shirt. And see how the back is longer than the front? So that's just what I wanted to show you, which is extremely boring, and I'm terribly sorry for doing that to you. But yes, Andre, he was an amazing player, because he did say in his autobiography that he was starting to lose his hair, bald, start balding, and yet his image was somebody that wore this hairband with all the long hair hanging. It was the 70s, and I think now it's so much better for men. They're much more emancipated now, because they can just shave their heads if they're losing their hair, and no one, it's so good that they can do that, because through no fault of their own, it's just the way their genes are. But in the 70s, it was particularly difficult for men, because the fashion was long hair. And of course, if you didn't have much, it must have been very difficult, But anyway, he was losing. So he had actual hair pieces stitched in to his hairband when he played. And he was always mortified and worried that one of them might fall out while he was actually on the court. And when you consider that that was going on in his subconscious, and he still managed to win so many matches and look so casual while he was doing it, that I think he really is a real example of mind over matter, just being able to conquer that. I mean, that's just incredible, really. Anyway, so we'll carry on now, sorry. Now, in my next video, I'm going to be doing one about Matisse. And I've been putting him together. He's just not quite ready yet, because, it's so difficult to make yourself do something when you just want to sit and stitch. And I do want to do him because he's fascinating. And, it's just willing myself to just put that extra hour in now, and he'll be done. So he'll be ready. But when part of Matisse's history, there's collage is in there. And I thought to myself, I think I've got some collage somewhere that I did. It was actually for the children. It was a project, I think. And so we got together, for schoolwork, how you help your kids. So I just thought I'd show you these that I just happened to stumble upon while I was rifling through looking for something else, as usual. And this is a collage, and they're a great idea, really, because this is based naturally enough on Alice in Wonderland. But this is just what sort of, just canvas paneling, that you use for oil paints. But it's got a rough surface. So I just did like a castle wall in the background, just with the stone there. And then we just got pieces out of a magazine, and we cut them up. We made a curtain, and then we just fashioned the Mad Hare, or whatever he was. What was he in Alice in Wonderland? No, that's the Mad Hatter. Was he a hare in there or a rabbit? Anyway, whatever he was, we did him. I think, you know, hares, they just got bigger ears, haven't they, than rabbits. And there's his little outfit. So there was that one. And then we did another one, which is this one. And I think here we put tracing paper over the top to give a feeling of distance there. And there's the Cheshire Cat and Alice and the King and the Queen there. And it's all just paper stuck on, and that's from playing cards. So it's amazing what you can do, isn't it? If once you get those, start snipping away. And that will make more sense once I do Matisse. I might show those again. Yeah, when I do Matisse, because it did remind me of some of the things that he did. Now then, what else have we got here? Oh yes, now I'll just show you, I'll show you my finishes. Where's the other one gone? Oh yeah. Well, here's one that I did, and you saw that the other last time. Just a bit of a fun stitch there, and I just popped it into this round frame, and I didn't do any finishing. I just cut it off because I thought, well, it's just for me, it'll just be in the stitchy room. So there's that one. And then there was the one that I did the dimensions, bonsai and Buddha, that one. And it did originally have this fabric here, and I did start on it, but I wasn't happy with that fabric. Sorry, I'm waving it around, aren't I? The design is Michael Adams, so I should give him recognition. Yeah, so that was the original fabric that they supplied, but I just wasn't happy with the colour. I thought I would be, but I wasn't. I think it's because this colour here is more like a pinky colour, whereas the fabric, when it arrived, it was that colour, which is not, just not the same, is it, at all? So I thought, nah, that's not going to work for me. So I got the food colouring dyes out, and food coloured myself some fabric, because I don't really do, you know, the dye where you have to put the gloves on and, you know, all that business. It's just freaks me out. So I just use food dye and hope for the best. And here is that one, and I just found this frame in an op shop this week, and I just really like that. I haven't seen a frame that colour before, I have to say. So that's that finish. And these words all here are they're symbols for prosperity and all that. I was looking for the actual information on it and I couldn't find it. But, you know, if you Google this particular one, it'll tell you everything anyway. So that's that one all finished. Thank you to Michelle for inspiring me to get something finished and framed, because often I put them aside because, you know, I think it's more for me. I enjoy stitching the actual piece, and then, you know, framing is just, that takes time. Although really most of the things I frame, you know, if I can't do them in 10 minutes, then they tend to go to the back of the queue, and, you know, I'll get round to it sometime. So what else? I think I might just do that haul now, show you that. And then I think we might be just about finished. So these arrived because I thought that, seeing as I'm going to be doing one piece at a time now, I thought I might get some petites, because they're great fun to stitch and they don't take that long. And I'm not getting any younger. I mean, you know, the days of me getting full coverage things, you know, really big ones anyway. I mean, I can do the smaller ones, you know, just an ordinary size piece of paper, kind of full coverage. That's fine. Like one, you know, that size. That's one thing. But the skating minister, there's a huge, vast part of that I would very much like to do. You know, the full lock in the background. But I'm having serious thoughts about whether I will do that or not. Or whether I'll just go so far and then put him in an oval frame, which was suggested to me in the comments, and I thought that person was very clever to think of it. But I just don't know. There's that purist part of me that thinks, well, it's you know, it was painted with the full background in it, so I should do it. But who knows? You know, I think but stitching, sometimes it can put you in two minds about what you're going to be doing, and you really don't want to be in that space when you're stitching for relaxation and enjoyment. And you don't want to be sitting there conflicted about, you know, whether you should do the lot or whether you should do a small amount, or, you know, that's whatever comes with the territory, I guess. Now, the gold collection petites. So they were on special. So Harlequin fired up the computer and we got 4. So now there's this one. Dreaming of Tuscany, Barbara Filiski. And Barbara did a beautiful dream of Tuscany. I just think that's just lovely. It just covers everything. And I don't know if Tuscany, you know, you sort of think about Tuscany and you wonder if it's as good as it looks. You know what I mean? It probably is, because, I mean, you know, what could be better than that? A glass of wine, a view like that, and thou. What more could you ask for? So that's lovely. So I got that one. And then, what have I got here? This one, Overlook Cafe, designed by Sung Kim. That's a crackerjack as well, isn't it? It looks so Mediterranean to me, you know, those really bright colours that the sun just brings out and everything there. So there's that one. And then we've got the beacon at Rocky Point. And I can't see who's actually done this. I'm not sure they put it there, but anyway, there it is there. I am a bit of a sucker for lighthouses, I have to say. And part of me wants to sort of not have the house in there, just have the lighthouse. But then I suppose it wouldn't be Rocky Point then, would it? But I'll think about that, because I think it'd be nice, just the lighthouse on its own. But anyway, whatever. And then the last one that I got for this haul, I've got a bit more down here that I've had for a while. This is Quiet Night. And this is Fred Swan. And I mean, that's just lovely, isn't it? Because you know what it's like when you're out in the snow and it's very cold, and then you look towards your house and you can see that little warm glow in there, and you know that you'll be going in there and getting warm. I mean, it's just beautiful. And that would be very nice for a Christmas scene as well. So that's those. So I was very happy that he was able to get those without any problems. I'll just pop those down there. Now, the next one I have is this one here, and people have blitz stitched this one. The Gold Collection, Southern Social. I'll just take it out of the thing. Now, I have been looking forward to doing this one, but it keeps getting bumped to the back of the queue. There it is there. And most people say, when they look at this one, they think of the film Gone with the Wind. But in my case, I think of this one, Jezebel, Betty Davis and Henry Fonda, a very young Henry Fonda. I think his wife was expecting a baby and he was hoping to get the filming done before she gave birth, which I think he did get back in time. Now, this is such a good film. I mean, Betty Davis, I'll just read you the little bit on the back here. While movie fans were abuzz over who might play Scarlett O'Hara in the upcoming Gone with the Wind, Betty Davis got another Southern Belle role and gave a fiery performance that won the 1938 Best Actress Academy Award. Davis plays Julie, a New Orleans beauty whose constant attempts to goad fiancé Press Dillard, that's Henry Fonda, to jealously backfire. Angry and disgraced, Press breaks their engagement and leaves town. Julie endures a year of remorse until Press comes home. And I won't, there's a little thing there when he comes home that Julie's not expecting anyway. And then her vengeance explodes, and so on and so forth. But there's a few classic bits in there. I mean, the Southern Belle, they've got, the South, it seems to me anyway, they had these rules of etiquette and everything, and the gentlemen were a certain way, they used to have jewels and all that sort of thing. And the ladies were expected to behave in a certain way. And Julie was very much an individual thinker, and she was very fiery. And it starts out with everyone waiting for her to arrive. And she is on this horse that's absolutely prancing about and rearing up nearly, and she's just got off him. And she's got riding gear on, and she gets to the door and she's laughing about, someone's trying to control this horse she's just got off. And the riding gear, how it was sort of had a big long trail on it. She sort of somehow got her riding crop and swept around and flipped it so it came over her shoulder. And she walked in with these boots on, and all the ladies and everything are all dressed in their finery, and she wanders in with her riding gear on. So that gives you straight away an idea of what she's like. And then there's this ball, if I remember rightly. It's a long time since I saw this film, but what was it called? The Olympus Ball, that's right. And this Olympus Ball, everybody there, all the ladies, were expected to wear white. And the gentlemen, their bow ties and their finery. Anyway, Press turns up to take Julie to the ball because he's engaged to her and her parents, And she comes down in this red dress. And he says, just put on something, the proper dress, because she did have the white dress, she just wasn't going to wear it. Anyway, she insists on wearing it. So without a word, he puts the cape over her shoulders and off they go. So they go to the ball, and it's a picture when Prez walks in with Julie, and everybody looks around, and they've all got their white dresses on, and she comes in this red dress. Of course, it's a black and white film. And actually, in the film, it wasn't red. It was a sort of a greyish colour. But, it's really red for the storyline. Because that's the colour of the Scarlet Woman, as you know. Anyhow, so as they walk in, the gentlemen are all just standing there gaping, and Press at Henry Fonda is staring them all out as he's walking along with her, defending her honour, basically. As though to say, you know, in the days of duels and everything, any one of them could have challenged him. But anyway, he stared them all out, and then the music started for a dance. And she, as soon as she gets there, she says, "Oh, I want to go home. I want to go home. Basically, take me out of here." And he said, "No, no." He said, "We're here now, basically." So he starts dancing with her around the floor, and the music's playing. And as they're going along, the floor is just getting cleared. All the ladies are leaving the floor. All the gentlemen are leaving the floor and turning their backs basically on them. And he sweeps her round. He just keeps going. And she's mortified the whole time because she knows she's pushed it too far. She realises she's done that. Anyhow, so they sweep around and the music stops at one stage and he says, "No, keep playing." So they play on it goes. Anyway, they go home, you know, her and her parents, and Press takes her to the door and he says to her, "Goodbye." And she says, she looks at him, and he's basically saying, I took you, but I'm not. That's the end of the relationship. And she thought, oh, he'll cool down, he'll come back, but he didn't. He left and went to New York for a while, for a year. Went north, and then he came back, but he didn't come. Well, I'll just. But it's such a good film. It really is. Once again, like Gone with the Wind, you have to watch it in the knowledge that it was of a certain era, and things that happened in this film, certainly they wouldn't do the same thing now. But you know, it's very easy to be revisionist with history, to look at characters and things that happened in the past and be very judging about them from our perspective. But our perspective, in the future, people are going to look back on what we've been doing, or what we do, in my view anyway, and they will probably be just as judgmental about what we think is proper and fitting now. You know, they might think, oh, what were they thinking of? So I don't think it's wise, really, to dwell on what people did in the past. I think you have to fit it in to the era and what was going on and what was accepted at that time. It's like Enid Blyton's books. I mean, now they're changing words and completely. And you think to yourself, the author is dead and gone. They can't ask her, "Oh, do you mind if we start changing your storylines now because they don't really fit in with what we think these days?" I don't know why books can't be left to be fitted into their context of when they were. And then when you're reading them to the child or whatever, you can say, well, you know, this is what they did in those days. I mean, you've got to have a certain amount of this sort of thing known so that people can know that that wasn't right to be doing that. You know, if you keep getting rid of everything that challenges people of what, you know, what was accepted, they don't get it. You know, you need to hear a bigot every now and again so you can be annoyed about what they've said, you know, to me, rather than not being allowed to hear them at all. I mean, how can you form your own balance of what's accepted in your head and what isn't, you know? It bothers me. That does bother me a bit. You know, like when I was, you know, about 15 or 16, there was, what was his name? Somebody Armstrong. I don't know if it was Ted Armstrong or whatever. But he was doing all these things about our polluted planet and how, you know, in 10 years we'll all be gone, basically, because everything was so terrible. And that did affect me. I used to think, well, what's the point then? You know, you may as well just kick up your heels and do what you like if we're all doomed. And that was over 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So I think it seems to me that young people now, they're burdened down with so much, especially school kids and everything. I mean, why can't they just have their childhood and have their teenage years relatively carefree instead of being, now they seem to be filling their heads from the minute they get to school, even preschool it starts. No wonder there's so much depression in teenagers, and so many, even taking their lives and everything because they're so depressed. And everybody's saying, well, why are they so depressed? And I think, well, it's not rocket science. It's because you keep filling them up with how hopeless everything is. I mean, oh. Right, so that was Betty Davis anyway. And woe betide anybody who called her Bet Davis. Apparently that was a big no-no. And I'll tell you another very good film of hers too, which I might have, look, put it down here, yeah. The Letter. Now that's a cracker as well, and it actually is on the internet. If you Google film The Letter, it will come up and you can watch it online. I'll see if I can remember to get Harlequin to put a link, but if I don't, you can just Google it and it'll come along, and it's well worth a watch. She is fabulous in that. And there's a line in that film. It's just unforgettable. Oh, it's here. With all my heart, I still love the man I killed. It's just a classic. Right, that's that. Anyway, so finally, I think I've covered everything. I am just going to do a giveaway. Now this, bear in mind that I didn't know that I was going to be doing a giveaway with this, so I actually coloured in the chart. It made it easier for me at the time. Now it's this one here, John Clayton International Lavender Field, that one. And for those, let me take it out of the thing here. And for those, there'll be ones that have seen this before, but this is where I framed it, and I did a bit of watercolour around the edge of the frame because I just didn't like how narrow it was, so I wanted it widened out a bit. So that's what I did with it, and just to, I don't know, and it's one of my favourites, I have to say. I very much enjoy having that on my wall. So yes, so I'm going to be giving that away. And just bear in mind, there's a little edge of it, edge of the thing. Okay. See how I've coloured in some of it? So, and there is the card there. You see, I put the actual symbols, you see, so just bear in mind that that's what you get. Now there are some threads there, and it has got the DMC numbers there for when you run out, but I just thought, well, I'll pop those in as well. So what is the question for the competition? You'd think I'd have thought of that before I even turned the camera on, wouldn't you? Oh. I've got blank. What is your favourite animal? How about that? And just the usual rules, get permission if you're underage to enter, whatever. And when I do, I might just, I don't know if I don't really want to do the results in the Matisse. I might just do a little separate one to show who won, or I might just hold it over till the next actual cross stitch video, which shouldn't be too far away, I guess, if I've nearly finished. Yeah, so I'll just hold it open until, I don't know, just a couple of weeks or something. I think my brain has turned to porridge now. On calendar, here we are. Right, now we'll have a look here. September. It's the 22nd today. So what if we make it finishing on the 13th of October? So that's a couple of weeks. And then I will announce the winner in my next video, but not the Matisse one, because I just want that to be separate. All right. Right, well, I shall head off now. I'm going to go and have my breakfast. A nice little banana toasty. I just do like my banana toasts. And I shall catch you later. And bye from Mary Rose at Stitch Bliss Corner. Bye for now.